All right, let's get right into it. The date, January 7th, 2026. The scene? The seriously rough waters of the North Atlantic. What starts as a geopolitical chess match is about to go hot, and we're going to break down exactly how this incredible operation went down.
So this is the million-dollar question, right? It's about as tense as it gets. You've got a U.S. Coast Guard cutter trying to enforce sanctions on one side, and on the other, a tanker now flying a Russian flag with one of the deadliest hunter-killer subs in the world hiding right underneath it. Talk about a high-wire act.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the insane ocean chase and how Russia decided to up the ante in a big way. Then we'll dive into the takedown itself, the incredible air assault, the hardware they used, and the insane precision of the drones that really made it all happen.
To really get how we ended up in this standoff, you've got to go back a few weeks. It all started with this massive 4,000-mile chase across the open ocean, all in pursuit of one ghost ship called the Marinara.
Now, the Marinara wasn't just some random tanker. U.S. intelligence knew it was part of what they call the Shadow Fleet. You can basically think of these as ghost ships, older, kind of beat-up tankers that sanctioned countries used to sneak oil around the world completely off the books. And this one was loaded with Venezuelan crude, breaking a pretty serious U.S. blockade.
The whole thing kicked off back in December of 2025. The ship was actually called the Bella 1 at the time, and it got caught red-handed trying to load oil near Venezuela. When the U.S. Coast Guard moved in to intercept, the captain just said no. He refused to stop, killed the ship's transponder to go dark, and just gunned it out into the Atlantic.
And this is where things get really wild. While they were on the run, the crew actually started frantically repainting the hull of the ship. They changed the name from Bella 1 to Marinara. At the exact same time, they raised a Russian flag, and Moscow made it official, adding the ship to its registry. The whole idea was to change its status from a criminal ship to a sovereign Russian vessel, basically daring anyone to touch it.
And that's when the game completely changed. Russia's response wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a move straight out of their hybrid warfare playbook. They weren't just offering diplomatic cover, they were sending in the big guns, a nuclear-attack submarine dispatched to personally escort the tanker and force a confrontation.
And we're not talking about just any sub. This was a top-tier hunter-killer, probably a Yasin or Akula class, with one simple order: protect the Marinara. It's a classic area denial strategy. You just park a silent, incredibly lethal threat right in the middle of the playing field. Russia was betting that the U.S. Coast Guard cutter, which has zero capability to fight a sub, would have no choice but to turn around and go home. Oh, and as if a nuclear submarine wasn't enough of a headache, there were also Russian warships in the area, forming a defensive screen. This meant U.S. commanders were walking on a razor's edge. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and this thing could spiral into a much, much bigger conflict.
So Russia made its bet, assuming the U.S. would blink. Washington had a choice: back down or call their bluff. They decided to call. The mission to seize the tanker was a go, but the plan had to be flawless. They were going to take that sub out of the equation, not with torpedoes, but with overwhelming air power.
Here's how it worked, in 4 steps. First, they swarmed the area with U.S. and British P-8 Poseidon aircraft, the best sub-hunters on the planet. Second, those planes dropped a massive net of sonobuoys, which are basically underwater microphones, to find the sub. Third, they got a lock. They were tracking its every single move in real time. And finally, they neutralized it. By boxing that sub in from the air, they sent a very clear message: we see you, we know exactly where you are, and if you make one aggressive move, you're done.
So with that underwater threat completely pinned down, the Coast Guard cutter Monroe moved in. The problem was the waves in the Atlantic were way too rough for a normal boarding with small boats. So they went vertical. In an absolutely stunning move, Special Ops teams fast-roped from hovering helicopters right onto the tanker's deck. The vessel was secured in minutes.
So that's the story of how it happened, but the how is just as fascinating as the what. This operation wasn't just about guts and training, it was about having exactly the right tools. So let's take a closer look at the key pieces of hardware that made this whole thing possible.
2 aircraft were the real stars of the show: the MH-60 Seahawk helicopter and the MQ-9 Reaper drone. Think of the Seahawk as the hands-on muscle. It's the one that hunts subs and puts boots on the deck. The Reaper, on the other hand, is the persistent eye in the sky, just watching, providing intelligence 24/7. Totally different jobs, but they work together perfectly.
And the Seahawk is basically a flying arsenal. I mean, it's got everything. Hellfire missiles for ships, heavy machine guns, even powerful miniguns, and, crucially for this mission, anti-submarine torpedoes. It really is the workhorse of the fleet.
And this quote really nails the key difference here. Why does this matter so much? Because a drone is great for watching, but the Seahawk has the specialized gear, like dipping sonar and torpedoes, to actually hunt a submarine. In this whole chess game, the Seahawk was the checkmate. It was the one piece on the board that the Russian sub-captain absolutely had to respect.
But the Seahawk wasn't working alone. Let's talk about its partner up there, the MQ-9 Reaper. Because while it couldn't hunt the sub, the way it's paired with the Hellfire missile, well, that's a combination that has totally changed the game when it comes to striking targets on the surface.
The Reaper's superpower is its endurance. It can just hang out, circling over a target for more than 24 hours straight. Think about what that means. A target can run, but it can never, ever hide. That persistent, unblinking eye is what changes everything. It gives you perfect intelligence around the clock.
And what do you pair with that eye in the sky? The Hellfire missile. It uses a laser or radar to lock on, it travels faster than sound, and, this is the really cool part, it can actually adjust its course on the fly to hit a target that's trying to get away.
And when you put those two things together, it's just an unbeatable system. You've got the drone holding a perfect, unshakable lock on a target, and you've got the missile with its incredible speed and smarts. The result? You can hit a small, fast-moving boat doing almost 70 miles per hour on the open ocean. It's about as close to a perfect weapon as you can get.
Which really brings us to the big takeaway here. The whole Marinara incident was this amazing dance between old-school sea power and brand-new tech. And it leaves us with a huge question for the future. As this combination of constant surveillance and hyper-lethal precision becomes the new normal, are we watching the rules of naval warfare get completely rewritten right before our eyes?